Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Excelcast. I'm your host, Joe Parker, and today I'm with entrepreneur, business owner, and bodybuilding professional, Nick Christensen. Nick, how you doing today, man?
I'm I'm doing pretty good, man. How are you doing yourself?
Doing good. We were mentioning right before the podcast, I just moved down to Florida. So I've been looking at some job opportunities and some professional opportunities. But your business is launching in March 2024, right? Tell me a little bit about that.
So actually, that's when I'm going to be launching my clothing brand, as well as a few
Okay.
announced programs that I'm going to be selling on my website for everybody to be purchasing at a strict fee. Everybody's looking for coaching, but not everyone has the affordability for a personal trainer. So I'm going to be launching all of these programs for bodybuilding, powerlifting, and various lifestyle fitness advocates to buy and get started.
Okay. So it would be like instead of just purchasing your full service all the time, they could just purchase a program and follow that program.
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So so that allows you to scale better, right? That allows you to be able to reach more people rather than you taking an hour out of your day or 2 hours out of your day to train two people. Now everyone is able to know your company and they're able to join in the programs that you have without necessarily being in your gym.
100%, man. That's the goal is scalability in any kind of business that you are trying to start up and build. There's only so much time I have, and there's only so much time my trainers have available as well. But if you can have some of these programs available that anyone can purchase, the sky's the limit.
Absolutely. So what went into the process of preparing these programs for people?
It's been very detailed. They are about 15 to 17 pages per program that is available to the public as of March 15th. And, I have five different programs, so I've written close to 100 pages in programming myself. So there has been a lot of thought behind this and preparation. It's been peer reviewed by various individuals in the fitness industry to give you guys and everyone the best program that they can have.
That's awesome, man. So 15 to 17 pages. So is it really it's like really niche based? So you have to like pick those specific individuals that you're targeting. How'd you go about targeting those specific markets?
It is very niche based. So there's programs specifically out of the five. There's bodybuilding, there's powerlifting, there's lifestyle fitness, there's a plan for nutrition, and then I have a sports nutrition plan. And then I'm still on the fence about developing one more program for people that are like 50, 60 and over that can get into a fitness lifestyle
Okay.
through just a program basis.
Okay. So with the different, is there a difference in pricing, or you just kind of like priced everything the same based on the fact that you put equal amount of work into everything, or that some, because of the knowledge that you have, some of them are a little more valuable than the other ones?
They're pretty much going to be all around the same price. I'm still deciding on an exact price to put out there for when they're available, but they're all going to be the same.
Okay. Yeah, I was watching. Do you listen to Alex Hormozy at all?
No, not particularly, but that sounds very familiar.
It should sound very familiar. He has actually has a brand called Gym Launch, and he takes businesses that are $3 to $5 million, gyms specifically, and he helps them scale to 10, 15, 20 million and beyond that for sure. And his main thing is scalability, products and services. And the one thing that I want to do is I want to be a financial portfolio planner. So that's actually what I'm going for completely. I'm going to be, working with Northwestern Mutual here a little bit in March, and then also I'm going to start in their April training class. So I've been watching some of his stuff just because the way he relates business and gym. I'm in the business and gym realm, so it kind of translates for me a little bit better. But he talks about the more niche your target is, the more you can offer for, or the more you can price your offer at. So say you just have a general fitness playbook, you could probably charge like $20 for that. But say you have a fitness playbook for athletes, you could probably charge $50 for that. But then if you have a fitness playbook for football players, you could probably charge $150 for that. But then if you have a fitness playbook for football players that are specifically linemen, you could probably charge $250 for that. Because the more specific it is, you may have a smaller market, but they're like, that's exactly what I need. I need that. I need to pick that up, and that's what I'm going to buy.
Wow, that's a very good breakdown point. I'd definitely like to learn more about that because that goes back to a small business that someone is to create. You know, you really have to know your industry. You really have to be prepared to sell what you know. You know, that's where the pricing strategy comes from. I've seen this in a few other podcasts you created with some other business influencers as well. And the biggest thing when creating a company is, you know, a selling price. You know, it's trying to negotiate prices a lot, you know,
Yeah.
based on how much clientele flow you're looking to get. It's well worth having a price that might be slightly higher than other prices out there for a product. But if you believe in your service and you're confident in the knowledge you're selling, it's worth it to get those high paying clients versus, you know, a few flaky clients who might not be as invested in their product that you're selling.
Absolutely. And the more niche the client is, the more they're going to be invested, because if they define themselves that specifically, then they're already halfway there, halfway to being, they already want to purchase that because they're already within that industry, because they define themselves on multiple levels. People that just show up to the gym every once in a while, they're kind of like, they're not really into it, so they're like, oh, the general fitness one will work for me because I just kind of go to the gym. But when you have someone who's like, no, I am a power lifter, they're already open to purchasing something that's for a power lifter.
100%, man. And I love working with those individuals too. But I like working with everyone personally. But when I get a power lifter or a bodybuilder that's just trying to get on stage or trying to get to a competition and they already have all the basics covered and we could just get right into like, you know, posing preparation, you know, strategic bodybuilding movements to build like those bigger rear delts or something like that, man. That's what gets me fired up, you know, because then these people, you know, okay, this show's going to
Yeah.
happen, this powerlifting competition is going to happen. You're going to place, and we're you know going to have fun doing it. So
Yeah. Does having that competition, or like getting on stage, does that creates a sense of urgency, right? So do you find it easier to set goals for individuals that you have come in that have a goal like that?
I definitely like to bring up the dedication aspect to certain goals like that because stepping on stage, 6.5% body fat, man, I lived the life there. You know, last time we had a podcast was back in October. You know, we're going back 5, 6 months now. I was just beginning that weight loss journey, man, and I lost, you know, almost 30 pounds for the stage. I could not believe how I looked. It's the brain fog, the transitions you go through. It's looking back on it, it's almost like it didn't even happen. It's like a memory or just, you know, something that pops up like, oh, you know, that was me. You know, you people can look like that. You know, it takes time to process. And then now looking back on that, talking to future competitors when they come up to me, I've had a few people actually mention to me they want to do a show. I'm just like, man, you know, I want you to do this. If you got the passion for it, you want to do it, but you got to lock yourself into that because it's not a flaky maneuver that you're going to decide to do. It's all in or nothing because you don't just get down to 6.5% body fat for nothing. You know, you got to do your best with posing, do your best at training, do your best at eating. And then once it's done, then you can relax and look back at what you just did because it's a wild ride, man.
Yeah. I mean, so you take people that generally have that passion already. They're not necessarily they may have that passion for anything in life, right? Like with me and losing the weight that I lost, I've found a way to be able to transition that into anything else that I want to do, whether that be the podcast, whether that be, what I want to eventually do professionally. Because once you have that threshold of work ethic, you can apply it then to anything else that you want to do within your life. And I think that finding those people and being very upfront about it too, like how you're like, hey, like I would love for you to do it, but would you love to do it? Because I can set these goals, I can plan out every single day for you. But if you don't show up to the gym, that plan doesn't mean anything at all.
That is, you hit it on the head there. The plan that I lay out for people sometimes, I could kind of tell when they're invested and when they're not, and I really try and show them like the dedication that's required of them. And I don't necessarily instill that in people. A lot of the times they come to me on the fence about which path to choose, powerlifting, bodybuilding, or just losing weight. And they're like, oh, I really don't even know what's going on here. I'm just trying to get in the gym. And people pick up on my passion for just overall like goal setting and determination. And then they're like, oh, I'm with this now, because you're with it. So people seeing that, and like you said, in other aspects of life, doing it in your own job, losing weight, it can really apply to anything. And I really believe, once someone can stick to a plan for a certain amount of time, that plan can be implemented in everything, especially in a job sense and college. A lot of people drop out of college. I get it. It's rough. It's very repetitive over a period of time when sometimes you might not feel like you're progressing much further because the class sessions, 121 credits, it takes a while to complete, but you just got to stick with it because once you get that piece of paper, it's like, I did that, and now you can take that achievement and apply what you've learned in repertory application towards a career that you're getting involved with.
Absolutely. And I think that's what I was kind of misled about college a little bit. I was misled to think that, oh no, like once you have the piece of paper, like everything will be not done for you, but I think maybe that was like my mindset a little bit. Like you'll be fine just because you have that piece of paper. And I went on to even get my master's degree, and it was like, oh, you'll be fine because you have this master's degree now. But then I've learned, and college was very backsided, and I had to really think about the fact that no, you did those 5.5 years, so you can then apply that same 5.5 year process to growing in a company, growing in your own business. You grew through college and you got better at college. You can also get better at doing whatever else you choose to do as long as you stick to it for an extended period of time. And I don't think that's what I thought it was going to be at all after college, but I'm glad I at least came to that realization.
That is a very big part of college as well that you hit right on the head. And it takes a couple years of college. From freshman year, you're going in there and you're like, oh, I've got so much time to really think about what I want to do, quote unquote, after college. But that first year, the second year, you're just getting through general education. Then you're getting into your core classes. And then your expectations are that, oh, I'm learning all the insights. I'm learning all the background information that as soon as I'm done with this, people are going to be lining up at the door to give me a job. You know, there's a it's quite a
Yeah.
wild ride through the college experience that evolves how you look at job industries and positions available, thinking that once you've completed that term of schooling, that ultimately you're going to be head honcho, I guess you could say, and that every other position is
Yeah.
going to be knocking at your door, like you just kind of talked about. And I'm not trying to talk down about schooling at all, but the work ethic that's instilled in an individual has to be carried along into the work journey. And you do internships and things along those lines to gain experience on how to be more efficient in industries. But ultimately, man, you got to do the legwork in the beginning, in the end, and
Yeah.
continue. And then that's how you're going to be rewarded.
Absolutely. And I think one of the main things that I would stress to anyone that's listening that is going to college currently is get an internship too, because that's not something that I did. And not only do you get that real world experience, but you also, establish a rapport with a company. And if it's a good company and it's a company that you like and you like the people there and you like working there and you're fired up to be there, there's a good chance that they're going to be like, "Hey, when do you graduate? Oh, you graduate in 4 months. Would you like a job once you graduate?" And then they're like, and then you're like, "Oh, like I already have this set up." So if you're listening and you're still in college, I would definitely take the opportunity to get that I always mess that word up. Real world experience. Can't say rear wheel drive either. Not to change the topic, but yeah, those two words mess me up. But yeah, I would take that opportunity to, get that that internship and, establish that relationship with a company for sure.
And also for individuals who are still in college as well listening, you hit it on the head there, Joe. The internships and the relations you can make with other companies that are connected to colleges at your available resource, through whether that's a job searching department in the college as well. They have seminars. Just talk to people, see what these internships are about, because the connections can really go a long way. And that's one thing I wish I definitely took more advantage of was the internships. I didn't really start looking at that heavily until the fall. And then at that point, I already had my own company and, I'm trying to scale this. I have a decent job already, but, I'd really like to pursue more. And if I did an internship, possibly with like financial companies and holding companies, it might have progressed my position a little bit steeper. But, we all live and learn. I just hope that everybody else listening can really just take that first step, go talk to an advisor and find out what kinds of internships are available. These are the things that they always drill into you freshman year, sophomore year, internships. And then you get to a senior or postgraduate and you're like, I really should have listened to them. They're right. They're not just saying this stuff for their own health. They just want you to gain real
Yeah.
world experience.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like there wasn't a big, or maybe I just wasn't listening at the time, but there wasn't an emphasis on why. And I feel like a lot of schools don't emphasize the why, because if you're just telling me something, well, not a lot of schools, the schools that I went to anyway. If you're just telling me, "Hey, get an internship," and I'm just sitting there, maybe I should ask the question why. Maybe I just wasn't at the time curious enough to ask why. But if you're saying you need to get an internship, you should be able to back up why someone needs to get an internship. Because if not, I'm going to think that you don't have a full understanding of what you're talking about and you're just parroting whatever you've heard, which to me doesn't resonate at all.
Yeah, like you said, parroting the information that you learned. You can definitely tell when someone's parroting information, though, sometimes because there's no real world application to the experience that's being explained. And it comes to a lot of these. I've been to some business conventions and I've met some people, and the parroting is very lively. A lot of people who get their PhDs, EDDs, and you're a professional. What do you call this? A professional student at that point. So the information that's regurgitated a lot of times from our professors too, it can seem very dry at times, lacking some kind of
Hmm.
relation to the knowledge that was learned. And that's really why some PhD programs, EDDs, masters, educational degrees, they require, internships or hands-on application experience to give people something to relate the information that they learned to when out in the real world. So there's a lot to be said there about that.
Yeah. Especially like if you have a client, right? And you have a client that has tight hips and they go, "Nick, I have tight hips. What do I do for this?" And you give them a series of stretches and they go, "Okay, well, why am I doing this stretch?" And you go, "Well, it was in my book." They're gonna be like, "Okay, well, Nick, I need you to kind of tell me like what, like, is it loosening like the outer part of my hip? Is it loosening my pelvic, abductor? Like what is this? What am I doing right now, and what is it doing to my leg?" So I know while I'm doing it. And if you can't explain that fully, it's kind of just like the regurgitated information of that's just what I've learned, and that's just what it is. I haven't tried it myself. I haven't done it myself, and I don't really know what the overall impact is going to be.
Very true, man. And it's crazy too. I know you explained to me previously you thought about getting back into fitness coaching. Did you previously do fitness coaching, or this is something you're just trying to get into?
No, it's something I'm just trying to get into. I just got my CPT and I just got my nutrition certificate. I'm going for my strength and conditioning certificate. So, yeah,
Nice. Where are you
brand
getting
new,
your
all new.
certificates from, or
Yeah,
what accreditation?
ISSA.
Nice.
Yeah, yeah,
Like you said, you had mentioned that you were getting into coaching as well. And sometimes, man, with coaching, less is more. You know, the general public and people who are trying to better themselves just with whether that's mobility, losing weight, or being to put on a little bit of muscle, the basics really are the most anybody really needs. Like that's like what I operate off of in bodybuilding. It's just simple movements that
yeah.
are cycled. You know, you start with one type of movement and then you give it a break for a little while, do another one, and then you just go back to it. I mean, you could do that stuff for 10 years.
Yeah, absolutely. So you take simpler movements and just apply it to the bodybuilding process. So what would be the difference? Like, say you have squats, right? How would you approach it with a football player and a bodybuilder? Is there a different way that you teach that?
Oh, yeah. So a a football player doing squats, man, they're looking for power. You know, when you're coaching someone who's a football player squatting, we're looking for explosiveness off the bottom. We're looking for mid-range to high-range power. So you're going to be doing variations of heavy assisted squats with a safety squat bar. You're going to be doing some explosive like weighted sled pulls in conjunction with squats. It's a lot more different training style than a bodybuilder, except for the explosive. I guess someone could argue that bodybuilders do practice explosive squatting, but a lot of the times it's just controlling the weight up and down in a range of motion for a certain period of time to give you time under tension. That's realistically creating muscle
Mm,
hypertrophy. That's the ultimate goal for a bodybuilder versus a football player who's squatting. They're looking for explosive power. So them doing 6 to 7 reps at a very high weight for like 3 sets is more applicable than me as a bodybuilder. I do like 15 reps on a squat for like 4 sets, you know, because I'm looking for time under tension.
yeah.
So very, I could say very different, you know, and then there's power lifters as well who are more in line with the way a football player would to be training with the squat progression because they're looking for, you know, explosiveness off the bottom. They're looking for power increases and, you know, stability as well.
Awesome. Yeah. And then obviously you would train people different, like that are just trying to be healthy. You would be like, all right, let's get 405 on the bar. It's time to squat. They're just doing natural living.
Yeah, dude, squatting's never my go-to for anyone getting into the gym. Like squatting, bench pressing, most of my clients don't even do any of that stuff. It's just, even me personally, I don't really bench press. I try not to squat too much. It's just so much loading. I mean, and there's a point too. Like you get so strong in certain movements, it's just I'm hurting afterwards, just holding that weight on there for so long. And there's so many other exercises like split squats, leg presses. You know, I used to hate leg presses until I started really breaking down what they do for the body without ego lifting, of course, and just letting the weight travel down, controlling it, and really focusing on pressing the weight up. It's a very good contractual exercise, and in combination with, let's say, like a front squat or a hack squat, it's just can really build some great legs that way. And with bench pressing, you have dumbbells, you have machines that are. Some people can argue that machines are more of a stressful movement to get involved with than free weight because it hinders range of motion. But for certain people who are just trying to go to the gym and activate the musculature on their body. Machines, man, that's why Planet Fitness was invented, is to get people to cycle through the
Yeah,
machines in these areas to get their body actively burning more calories and pulling nutrients in so they could just live a healthier life. Planet Fitness, everybody hates on it. I mean, I can't say, I work out there, but it's got its place.
absolutely. It fits to the majority of people that want and need to work out. I used to be Planet Fitness, but I switched over to Crunch just because I like the free weights, and I always, I would look in the mirror, I'd be squatting or bench pressing. I was like, oh, I bench pressed this much. And then just in the back of my mind, it was always there. It was like, but it was on a Smith machine. So did you really? And then I was just like, all right, I just need to get into a gym with the free weight bar, a free weight bench. And, I do have a question for you though. You brought up leg pressing and you said that it activates certain parts of the muscle. And I've been doing both squatting and leg pressing, not so much deadlifting, but whenever I go to the gym, I'm like, all right, I'm gonna deadlift today. Because and then once I get there, right, in the back of my mind, it's just like, you want to deadlift because you don't want to squat. And you don't want to squat because squatting's harder. And so I never get to deadlift. So what are you know, what's something that you could tell me from a sports lifting psychology standpoint that is the reason that I'm thinking that, or how to get over someone who is in that mindset?
So let me just reiterate and process this a little more. So you're saying that when you walk into the gym, you want to deadlift, but you don't want to do it because it's heavy? Or,
No. So I'll like the day before, I'll be like, tomorrow's leg day. I'm gonna deadlift. I'm not gonna squat. And then I get to the
okay.
gym and I go, you just want to deadlift because squatting's harder.
And then you
And
don't
so
wind up
like
deadlifting, right?
I'll
Or,
then go like, all right. No, I wind up squatting every time because it's like a mental toughness thing for me. Like it was like, especially if it's like, yo, you just scared of that squat rack. Like that's really what it is. And then I'm like, oh, great. Now I have to go squat. Why would I not squat now?
that's a contradiction to me a little bit too, because deadlifting and squatting are two of some of the most vigorously and highest demanding movements you could possibly do, really. So deadlifting,
Yeah,
saying you're going to deadlift instead of squatting, and the day before, it they're both very highly intensive movements and highly demanding. So, like trying to break that down psychologically, it's really based off of your goals and determination, I would say. So, if you're determined to do a leg day and there's other movements that you can
yeah,
do for legs instead of squatting, you got to really figure out why you don't want to squat. Is it because it's heavy? Does it because it hurts your back? Is it because it causes other issues a day after, a couple days later? Like for me, if I was to break it down, like I told you, I don't squat as much as I used to. It hurts me. Putting 400 pounds on my back and doing that for 15 times, it just, it stresses
yeah.
me out. So I do it still, probably once a month, because I still need to do it. It's a very good compound movement. I'm not saying go crazy with the weight, but then you still got to do legs. It's got to happen no matter what. So then I supplement a leg press for that squat movement. I do a lot of my reps. I control it really slowly. I have to wait for the stretch, and then I go through my ranges of motion, and then I just I do my split squats. I do my accessory workouts, and I try and get a great burn in. But my CNS is not as taxed afterwards. If you really plan it out, it's still going to suck with that day before that you got to do those squats, but you don't have to do it time after time again, and it just makes it easier. You got to set it up as a habit. And same with deadlifting, man. It's
Okay.
not everybody likes to do that sometimes. It's very heavy, it's very central nervous system loading, but you got to go in with a plan. The night before, I'm going to be doing 315 for 3 sets of 7. This is what I have to get done tomorrow. This is what's going to get done. And if you accomplish that, you've hit a short-term goal. Now you move on to the next one. If you're just trying to do deadlifts to be a part of your leg day workout, you got to look at the weight you're doing and how much it's impacting you that day and the days after. If it's so taxing that the deadlift is the only thing you can really do and you can't actually perform your accessory work, it's too heavy. That's when you back that kind of the weight down. So
Yeah.
instead of 315 for 3 sets of 7, now you're doing 275 for 3 sets of 7. You're able to perform the lift in a good manner and still get through your accessories. And that's kind of how a good coach is programmed for their athletes and for anybody else in powerlifting, bodybuilding. That you got to play with that because everybody's realistically very different. Like for me, I can't do heavy weight and really get through a lot of my accessories. It's kind of like if we're doing like squats that day, I'm doing squats and then I'm going to have to trade off a few accessories because I have no energy to get them done. So I know that was very long and very in depth of a possibility of why you might not want to do deadlifting or squatting, but there's a lot that kind of goes into it.
Yeah, no, I mean, I love deadlifting. And I think that's the thing. Like, my mind is like, you like deadlifting. So deadlifting isn't hard for you. Squatting is hard for you. So you have to do what's hard. And I think I just need to get over it and just do a deadlift day and then show myself, hey, look, you're just as exhausted because you're doing deadlifts. Like, it wasn't like you worked any less. And I think that's where it comes from. It's like that fear of working less than what I'm capable of.
Hmm. So you love deadlifts. That's why you say you're going to deadlift instead of kind of
Oh,
like
yeah.
squatting. Why don't you like squatting? We got to break this
Yeah.
down a little more, What's going on? When you go into the gym and you
Yeah.
squat, what's going
Yeah.
through your mind when you got the weight on your back?
I think it's multiple things. It's just, so like, I don't hate squatting. Like, I get it done, right? Like, I do well on my sets. Um, Maybe it's because I don't use a belt. I don't use a belt either. I don't know. What are your opinions on belts?
So I don't use a belt either when squatting or deadlifting. It's if you really break down the
Yeah.
anatomy of the body and you talk about internal bracing, you can internally brace if you have a strong core without a belt. Belts are there for people to get the concept of bracing down because you're expanding your torso, pushing against a device that is now giving your mind a placebo that you are technically more supported. But sometimes a lot more injuries come from using belts because you're relying on them. It's a catch-22 sometimes. I always tell people, learn to do it without the equipment. Use the equipment if you absolutely need it. That's why powerlifters do sometimes because they're pushing the odds of human existence. So I can't really argue with them.
Yeah.
Uh, but definitely that's a personal choice, and practicing without it is definitely a strong suit.
Yeah. I've always I always saw it as not like cheating, but kind of because you're not building your core. And that was just a personal opinion, and not saying that anyone who uses it is cheating. It's just something that I say to myself, like, why not lift without straps? Why not lift without wrist wraps? Why not lift without a belt? Why not lift without all these things? And like, there are certain things, like, I used to say that, but I was also using a Smith machine. So there's certain things that, it's just how you take it as a person and as a lifter and just pushing yourself. Uh, but I also can see that, hey, like, if I'm doing back and I can do more weight when I'm rowing, why would I not use wrist wraps because my grip strength can't withstand what my back can pull?
That comes with experience as well. Like I use wrist straps on a lot of my back days. I almost all of my back day movements. Rowing 100 pound, 200 pound dumbbells. It's like the amount of strength it takes from my wrist just to hold that with barbell rows, anything else. A lot of people do have very strong backs. It's very taxing, and you can alleviate the forearms from that when necessary. You build your forearms on a forearm workout, not necessarily by statically holding weight while trying to work another part of your body. So in those tactics, yes, the implementation can be very beneficial. Like you said with a belt. I mean, I've seen guys, bodybuilders I've worked out with a lot of the times too. They wear belts when bench pressing. They wear belts when, doing a rack pull, things like that, or even rows, because it helps them stabilize themselves better. It's just a mindset thing. You do you, I mean, realistically,
Hmm.
it's free game across the board. It's I just wouldn't rely on it as a crutch for, say, if you're trying to do heavy squatting too, because you got to understand bracing. But fair game, man.
Yeah. Yeah. So you would suggest like maybe a 1 rep max or a 2 rep heavy set, not necessarily for everything doing it.
It, the it depends on the person. That's really what I have to say. I can't just say like, oh, if
Yeah.
you're going for
Okay.
a 2 RM, use a belt, because I'll go for a
Yeah.
3 RM, like vigorous, like, I'll squat heavy and I never touch a belt. But if I put a belt on, it's very uncomfortable for me.
Okay.
So it's depending on the person.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
that's what you have to be good with
Absolutely.
too. Like, know your body.
Um.
If you don't have to listen to what everybody else says. You got to create your own path. If belts don't feel good with you, then don't use a belt. You know, it sounds crazy too sometimes when people tell you that with like business advice. Like, there's really no right way to build a company besides financial structures and things like that are a necessity. But, advertising and marketing, man,
Yeah.
you just got to do the legwork. You got to go out there, you got to create videos, you got to reach out, talk to people, network. It's all the same thing, even since the early 1900s. Just back then they had no social media.
Yeah. It's a different vessel, but same concept. The more houses you knocked on, the more sales you were going to make. The more content you post, the more people you're going to reach. The more people you reach, the more sales you make.
And that's the whole concept behind content creation a lot of the times. I know social media in today's day and age is just very all over the place. It can be very chaotic because people are looking for the quick ticket to get famous quick. And the biggest thing when it comes to, I guess you could say, popularity with social media is being unique by replicating something that you created and that you believe in. If you notice, a lot of the famous individuals who have become so high up on there, it's because they have a certain ethic or a certain tactic that they just replicated multiple times that works for them. Once you figure that out, it's the same thing with the podcast, man. You are doing great with them. You have a structure that works, and people kind of know what to expect when they watch it, and it's always new, innovative, and that's you, man. That's why you got to stick with it. It's the same with anything else, and people are going to like it for that.
I definitely appreciate that. I've tried to keep it on the same path and really hone in on not changing it, but bettering it in the way that, like, when I was doing the 1 word podcast, the keyword optimization on that wasn't the best because who's just looking up 1 word podcast? No, people are usually doing like, what are 5 ways that I can expand my business? What are 3 steps that I can take to have a better life? What are different things that I can do to be better in the gym? How do I scale a business? Like they're asking these questions. No one's just going to go on and be like, change. And that's something that I realized. And not that I changed who I was and I didn't change the structure of these podcasts, but I changed how they were advertised and how they were marketed. So that way, people that were looking for advice and looking for how to be a better person, how to be more positive, they were going to find it better.
100%, man. And it comes down to coaching as well. I've changed my strategy on coaching people in person and virtually. I've gone through and I've helped a lot of people since we talked last, and it's really opened my mind as I went through all that psychological stress while under doing the competition prep. And it really just gave me a new outlook on what people are looking for and how I can show them what is expected as a coach and what I give them in return. So it goes back to, like you said, with the podcast structure. It's not you that's changing, it's just the tools and the concepts that have innovated.
And one thing that Alex Hormozy says in his he has a presentation for his $100 million offers book, and it's on his website acquisition.com. And one of the first quotes that he has in his presentation is, a great writer writes so that the reader understands, but a great salesperson writes great copy so that way the reader feels understood. And I may have butchered that quote, but it was it was the same concept. So like when you're writing and someone is reading whatever you wrote, they're like, okay, like I know what that guy's saying. But when you're selling something, you want that person to be like, wow, he gets me. Like if you're talking to an athlete, you're like, yeah, you probably have like, 6 a.m. meetings, right? Oh, you guys have lift at 7, and then you have, you understand their day, so you can conceptualize what they're going through and then know that you need to fit into their schedule. Oh, you're free from 2 to 3, so I can fit into your schedule like that because I understand you have a lot going on. Whereas someone else, you may be able to have a little bit more flexibility. And that's just a scheduling example. Also, you can't be like, oh, we're going to eat 3,000 calories when they're an athlete that's working out for 2 hours a day and they also have to go to practice. You understand everything that they're going through, so their calorie intake is going to be higher.
Yeah, 100%, man. And that's a topic that I really like to expand upon is when it comes to providing a service for someone. Depending on the service, whether that's a physical product that you are selling, it doesn't matter if it's a point of sale or if you're selling a service that fits into someone's lifestyle, specifically with coaching. I find myself doing that a lot of the times with my clients when I'm coaching them virtually, is texting them and finding the various times that are available for them to hold the meetings. And when we're holding our meetings, then we kind of plan out our weeks. And when we're planning out the weeks, I get an idea of what time frames work for them for working out, what meal schedules are looking like, so we can try and squeeze in some time for the meal. And you always have to break down the time that they do have available and show people what you can accomplish in that certain time frame. Sometimes it's very hard to break down the big picture, but when you're trying to sell a service or a product, it's got to be able to fit into their life. And when you can provide that information or the insight that shows that service or product fitting in, it's kind of like a shocker. And that's the biggest thing in sales that a lot of people don't realize as well, is that it's not just, oh, I can provide you a 2% discount on this product if you buy it right now or if you buy it within the next 10 minutes. It's, you know, you drive a Nissan Altima right now and, it's getting up there in miles and you're going to have to start sacrificing time with your family because you're going to have to start doing daily repairs on it and bringing it in. You're going to have to start dealing with the waiting times. But if you were to get into a new car with the offer we have available right now, you can avoid a lot of these future problems that you're going to experience beyond 150,000 miles. And you can ultimately just continue to live your life the way it's being very successful for yourself. Does that sound like a good idea? I'm not a car salesman. I just created a business.
Yeah. Yeah, it's creating that value. What do you offer, and how is it going to impact this person's life, and to what extent is it going to impact their life? If it's not going to impact it greatly, you probably can't charge that much for it. If it's going to re-change the way that they live on a daily basis, there's a good chance that you can charge a decent amount of money for that product.
And it's not only charging a decent amount that makes it like the availability to accommodate someone's lifestyle that makes it the price a higher stake, but overall just having a higher priced product, you have to be able to sell it to the individuals, like you said, in a niche market who actually like really need that and can benefit from it. You have to show them why that $100 product or whatever it's going to be is going to be beneficial in their life. That's going to almost, I guess you could say, get its worth over time, or we could call like customer, what do you call that? Lifetime value. CRM, we learned a lot about that with school. It's the same thing in every industry. What is the product that you're selling? is value to the customer and what is the customer's value to you. So that's a lot of things that come into play when you're creating a price for a product. And we could probably talk all day about like how to price
Yeah.
products and what industries to get into. There's tons of podcasts talked about this on deciding whether to be a car salesman or be an insurance salesman or be a financial advisor. Dude, I love doing research on all this kinds of stuff because so many people out there have so many different opinions on it. It comes down to what do you
Yeah.
want to do? Do you want to be right up in front with someone selling them a car? Do you want to be knocking on doors doing D to D? Or do you want to kind of be cold calling and doing 175 phone calls a day?
Yeah. A lot of the jobs that I have been offered have been cold calling. And they go, well, it's not cold calling, it's warm calling. These people are kind of interested in it. And I'm like, that's pretty much the same thing. The way I'm looking at it, people are getting a random call from a random number for a random product or service. You may have clicked on a health insurance ad, but does that necessarily mean that you want a phone call from me saying, oh, I have health insurance for you? Which is why I like the way that Northwestern Mutual goes about things, because it is people that you want to build a relationship with. It's not just that cold call making the sale. That's it. It's people that you want to have in your circle, people that you want to help, and you're structuring their finances for the security, safety, and benefit of their family. And that's what I'm good with numbers. I'm good with finances. I've been around numbers and finances my whole life. And it's something that I really feel like I could help and impact people's lives with. And there's three things that people typically go to bed and think about before they sleep at night. And I actually got this from my friend Mondo Salavanti. It's their health, their finances, and their family. So those are the three things that they go to bed before they think about before they go to bed. So if you can get into one of those industries, people are always going to be thinking about you. And if you can relate whatever industry you're in to one of those aspects, just like you're say you clean pools, right? If you're like, oh, we clean pools, but if we're like, we clean pools so you and your family can spend more time out in the pool because your pool is perfectly clean. You don't have to spend time cleaning the pool. You can spend time inside with them, and then you guys can also come outside and have a great time outside as well. Because then you're building that picture in their mind of my family smiling, my kids are happy, we're out by the pool, we're having a great time. You're not just selling them a clean pool.
Yeah, 100%, man. It's you got to always think about the personability factor when selling a service or product. Not everybody is just looking for a one-time fix. That's kind of why we have online sales too. Amazon's created, it's
Yeah.
instant gratification by purchasing a product delivered to you. But we still have to keep that personability alive, especially when it comes to dealing with people's finances. And I think that's going to be a great avenue, and I think you're going to really do great in any field that you decide to go into as far as finances, man. I'm excited.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Being a personal trainer for about a month is going to definitely warm me up to getting that started and getting that going, because a lot of that's face to face in person, being able to sell yourself and be confident in your abilities and also impact people's lives. And it's still going to be in one of those niche areas of health and, helping people specifically with their weight loss journey is what I'm going to target my audience to. And yeah, I'm going to be working at Crunch up in Wesley Chapel here in Florida. And I'm excited, man. And I wish the best of luck with you and with everything that you have going on. Do you have any last words that you kind of want to say to our audience before we get off the podcast?
Realistically, when it comes down to getting involved in a career, because careers are very stressful, I know a lot of us can ponder years and a lot of time, I wouldn't say wasted into going back and forth between different career concepts. but take the time to really see what you see value-wise in that career and break it down and apply certain aspects of those careers. Man, what am I saying here? Take the time to really look at the careers, break them down, and find out why you want to do it. As far as finances, you like finances, you want to help people still, you're doing some personal training now, but that's ultimately something that keeps you going. Coaching keeps me going as well, and I find a very strong satisfaction in finances as well, which is why I'm kind of pursuing something similar even on the side of my training and coaching as well. But find what you like to do, try and talk to people, go out of your way. Nothing's going to be really handed to you, and make those connections, establish a network, and continue to build from there. Don't wait until the end of college. Get on track now. Take in charge of your life, because life is very short and it's going to fly by.
Absolutely. Use college to the best of your advantage. It's something that I did not do. I thought
Hmm.
that I was just supposed to go to class, whatever. But if you truly utilize the resources that you have while you're there, it's 10x beneficial than if you just go to class and get the piece of paper. It really is.
100%, man. Like you were
And
saying
Nick, I
too,
want to
a
say
lot of,
thank you for coming on. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
No, I was just reiterating a little bit on what you were saying as well. College, a lot of the times we see some of the professors as just, graders, and they're just paperwork handing people, but they're a lot of the times trying to help you and benefit you in a lot of ways that takes time to absorb. So you hit it on the head, man. And of course, I'm always more than happy to be on your podcast. I love being on here and speaking with you and throwing around some knowledge that we have accumulated through our years in school and life experience. And I'd always be happy to join you for another session if you'd always like to have me.
Oh yeah, dude, absolutely. Especially with both of us starting out I mean, you're a little further along your career than I am, but as we progress and as we move forward, I definitely feel like this could be a mutual beneficial relationship on the podcast. And yeah, we gotta, whenever I'm up in the Pennsylvania area again, we're gonna have to meet up and grab dinner or something, because even though we've talked a lot, we have never met in person. So that definitely should be put on the schedule for sure.
Yeah, 100%, man. I always make my way down towards you and Philly and whatnot. That's where you're from, right?
No, I'm from Harrisburg. So I'm actually, yeah, I'm from Harrisburg. I went to Kutztown though, so that's in like the Allentownish area, about 25 minutes from Allentown. But yeah, I'm from the Harrisburg Hershey area.
Yeah, I'm down that way a couple times a year. I have tons of friends in bodybuilding that go to power build gyms and also fusion gyms down by Philadelphia. So I usually make some rounds down there. Also, I have clients who are in competitions in Philadelphia. So I'm always doing a lot of traveling. We will set something up, man. We'll get a killer workout, and I'm looking forward to it.
Awesome. Sounds good, man. Well, I appreciate you being on the podcast today. I appreciate you, sharing about your business and fitness journey. For everyone out there listening, we're on every platform you could think of: TikTok, Instagram, Facebook as well. I just opened up a Facebook account. I'm on LinkedIn. All of them are at ExcelCast, except Instagram is ExcelCast_. TikTok is also at ExcelCast. I'm on YouTube and Spotify at ExcelCast. Nick, what is your Instagram so people can give you a follow too?
My Instagram is Nick Christensen 807, and I'm also having a business profile page, which is C Strength 23 on Instagram, Facebook, and you guys can also find us both Nick Christensen 807 and C Strength 23 on TikTok as well.
Awesome. Sounds good, man. Well, thank you for coming on. And as always, stay blessed and excel.